Hello and welcome to another episode of the BashTalk podcast. I do have a special guest today. It is a visual artist from Nelson, Lancashire, and her name is Shahida. And Shahida, if I can ask you just to give us a really brief introduction or some words about yourself, just to give you some context to the viewers, please.
Yeah, well, basically, I'm born and bred in the UK. My name's Shahida Ahmed. I was born in Nelson. My family's from Nelson. My parents, my grandparents. We've got 5 generations. And I had a career in teaching and the arts, and recently also published my first novel as well.
Well. So we are going to go into a bit more detail about some of the stuff that you've done. But just to begin with, so you obviously started off in this little working class mill town of Nelson, but you got into the visual arts. But would I be correct in saying you got into it a little bit later in life? It wasn't something you did right from like a young age?
No, I think you mentioned it's a working class town. Obviously, my parents were migrated to Nelson for work from Pakistan. But I think growing up as a child, I'd seen a lot of hard work. I'd seen my parents work in factories, set up the business. And also in the generation that I grew up and went to school, we were like the first batch of girls and sisters who went to university. So for us, education there was absolutely no compromise on it.
Yeah.
And my arts, I think, really started with my mum, because my mum was so creative. She used to make us sew clothes, knit, do crochet.
Oh,
So the creativity was in the family,
Mm-hmm.
like from home. And then having a fabric shop, and seeing all of that, I was always creative, but it wasn't actually me that was going to go into the arts. It was my sister.
All right.
And then I went to Nelson and Cone College, and I had to wait for my sister, who was doing English night class. And when I was waiting for her, I used to always sit outside a pottery room on the steps. And the teacher said to me, "Why don't you join the pottery class?" I'm like, "Don't be stupid. Who does pottery?" And then when it got really cold and my hands were numb and my bum was numb, I thought, you know what, I'll just join for the sake of it. And I went in, and I remember my tutor giving me a ball of clay. And he said to me, "Look, make something." And when I touched it, it was my sense. And I remember my mum used to say, "Allah made you from mitti, Allah made you from mitti." And I was just fascinated with the material.
Okay.
So for me, that's where my art journey started.
And so at that point, you were kind of like, your sister was just going college and you kind of just fell into it almost at that
Yeah,
point.
when I was at high school, my art teacher didn't really encourage me. She always said that my work wasn't good. And I think teachers play a huge role in life, because, if you've had a good math teacher, you'll enjoy maths.
Yeah.
So for me, and then, so that's when my art career started, really, because I didn't have belief in myself. And then in 2000, when I was 19, first time I traveled abroad, and we went to Egypt, went to Pakistan. And I thought, oh my God, I come from this wealth of culture and art. So for me, it was like the Mughal history and the pyramids. It was like, oh my God. And, I'm doing landscape and figurative drawing. So that's when I decided that I was going to do Arts Foundation. I literally decided that that's where my heart went, and I followed my heart.
So how, well, actually, no, I'll put it another way. In terms of what you did then, I think you'd probably be like a front runner, because I don't know of any Asian women around here that have done or even considered going into the arts in any way, shape or form.
No, it
So,
wasn't. It was like, the pressure was on, because
Yeah.
obviously I was number 3 in the girls. My sister, one of my elder sisters, was at Lancaster University. My other sister was at university. And then for me, it was like, go down the medical field, be a lawyer, all of that. But the thing is, I remember telling my elder brother that this is what I want to do. And he said, if you get into art school, that's fine. But getting into art school wasn't easy. In those days, having a good portfolio, because there were so many people on my course,
Yeah.
didn't get into a good art school. And then there was a potter that I absolutely loved. He was called Jim Roberson. He was American. And he was like one of my idol ceramicists. And I loved his work. And he was a lecturer at Leeds University, but it was Bretton Hall, which was the arts college. It was for the arts, for music, for theatre. And I remember when I went for my interview, because my mom was like, she made my life difficult in a sense that because she hated the fact I was doing art.
Mm.
So I remember like there was times when she was like saying to me and my sister, "You're not asleep," and I'd put a broom under the duvet and put the lamp under and do my work, and like. And I went for my interview. I had two dustbin liners, black dustbin liners. Everyone's got really nice portfolios. I
Yeah.
had dustbin liners, and I remember going in and said, "Please, please, can you please take me? Because my mum doesn't want me to do art." And he was so calm and chilled, and he said, "Please take a seat." But the funny thing is, I met Jim on his 70th birthday, and he came to one of my exhibitions in 2010 when I did my masters. And he came and he goes, I still remember you coming through the door, and you said, "Please, can you take me?" And he goes, "I remember ringing the principal and saying, because it was a target for them to get ethnic minorities to come into the arts, especially female."
Yeah.
He goes, "I remember ringing the principal and saying, I think we've got an ethnic minority and she's a female and I think she's Muslim." So it was like, he was like, "Please take her, please take her." So I don't know if he took me genuinely, because of my talent, but that was the best thing that happened to me, because the week after I got an unconditional offer, which meant even if I failed all my exams, I got my place.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I was like, I was over the moon. And I think that's when, I specialized in ceramics was definitely what my passion was, but I'd learnt my drawing skills, my painting, printmaking, photography. I'd done all of that. And then during the process, I got engaged, and that's when I panicked, thinking, "Oh my God, how am I going to make money out of art?"
Yeah.
So after 2 children, then I went back to do my PGCE, and I went into teaching. And the nice thing about teaching was it works hand in hand with the creative mind, and having the experience I did myself, in school, my art teacher saying I can't draw, my English teacher saying you're dyslexic, you can't write. I wanted to do, and then with my youngest daughter being in and out of hospital, I really felt that, the role of a teacher is so important and how you can change people's lives. So at the time I did go into teaching financially, for financial reasons, but I loved it. It's even now, if I can get into a classroom, I love it.
Well, that's good. But when you were you teaching in this area, or were you?
No, I did all my training in schools in Manchester, Bolton, and then I was teaching in Preston. I never really taught locally. And then after 9/11, I was seconded to go to a school in Karachi.
Oh, wow.
So I taught in a British Embassy school, and those were the best few years of my life, actually. And then over the last decade, I've been in Qatar. I've worked at Virginia Commonwealth University, Doha College, which is one of the top international schools in the whole of the Middle East and internationally, actually. So my teaching career has been absolutely great. I can't complain about that, but just to be able to consult schools, advise them on teaching methodologies, how students should be taught, because I've got 3 children, but none of my 3 kids are the same. And I think the teachers have a very, very important role to play in the classroom. So yeah, that's my career. And I think then after teaching for so long, it wasn't until my parents passed away and, I was working more in the community. I thought, what can I do locally? And that's when I first worked in Nelson. I ran a local arts company called the Hoopo Club, which was teaching children art, and
How long ago was this?
this going back in 2006, 7, 8.
Okay.
So, it started off with my kids, my nieces and nephews, and then it just got bigger and bigger, and we'd have 1,500 kids in 1 year. And that really started from when I wanted to teach my kids Islam, like Salah, positions of Salah. And what they were learning in the masjid was, they'd come home learning swear words in Punjabi and stuff. So I thought, you know what, I've got to be hands-on. So we started off drawing the positions of Salah and the stories, like telling the stories. And then as an artist, I thought, right, what can I do? Because obviously my father passed away. I couldn't teach because it was like, who's going to pick and drop the kids off? So that's when I really went back into my art, starting off with the voluntary organisations. We got a little bit of funding, which I didn't know you could get. So they'd pay for community, like the spaces.
Still local here, yeah.
Yeah, all local.
Yeah.
Like we used Marsden School. We used on top of Barkerhouse Road. We did a lot. We used to do the workshops there a lot. And then as a result of that, lots of things happened. And then 2008, I was invited by Imran Khan, who's the Chancellor of Bradford University, to do an exhibition called The Influence of Heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And that was with three senior artists in Pakistan. So after leaving art and going into teaching, that was my first break into art. It was like, oh my God, how can I exhibit with three senior artists who've got no work? And that really give me a boost. And then from then on, alhamdulillah, I've just been making my work. And because I didn't have a kiln and stuff, I couldn't afford, because the equipment was so expensive. So I started painting. So yeah, and
But because you specialize in obviously ceramics, but because you were kind of creative, did you find it easier to be able to just carry on and paint as well, or did you have to go through a learning phase of that too?
Because the good thing about college was that you do modules and everything. So you've done printmaking, you've done photography, you've done paint, you've done drawing.
All right, okay.
So you've got all the knowledge, and then it's up to you. And then drawing was something I thoroughly enjoyed, and painting again. I could do it, but it wasn't my speciality. So a lot of my recent work, a lot of it's all painting. Like the piece that I'm taking to Algeria next week, that's a painting. It's not sculpture.
Right. So and then when it comes to the painting, like, it's not a case of you just, paint for the sake of it. Just clearly you've got some kind of motivation. There's some kind of theme that's running through you
Yeah.
to what you paint.
So the interesting thing is, when I had that exhibition for Imran Khan, the Chancellor at the time, my exhibition pieces were based on the Whirling Dervishes. Now, I've never seen a Whirling Dervish in my life before 2008. And when my father passed away, I remember I had a dream, and I'm not really a dreamer. And I just saw this cloth like flapping, going Allah, Allah, and I didn't know what the sound was. And then I remember watching television, and it was the Whirling Dervishes spinning, and it was the same sound.
All right.
And I'm like, oh my God, that was my dream. So a friend of mine just said, look, I'm clearing out. I've got loads of canvases. Do you want them? And someone gave me paint. So I literally got up one day and I started painting the Whirling Dervishes. So my decade from 2008 to 2019 was all about Whirling Dervishes. So when I did my last exhibition in Lahore, it was called Full Circle, because it meant I'd come a full circle of a series of painting Whirling Dervishes, but most of them were inspired by Rumi's poetry.
Right.
Yeah, because I love Rumi's poetry, so each piece was inspired by that. And then the first series, when you see it's very illustrative, because it's, my imagination. And then I went out to Turkey. I saw a performance, and I was just mesmerized by the whole concept of how they just were, the way that they move and the sound, and I was just mesmerized. So that's what happened. But then, like, my recent paintings have been based on 3 words: love, peace, and unity in Arabic. So that's what I'm putting into my artwork a lot. I try not to use figurative. I do portraits if they're commissioned. And it depends really on the exhibition, on the theme, on where it's going. Everything just really varies.
Okay, and I'm gonna move a bit forward and backward in timelines here, just as the questions come to me. But I'm making notes. One thing you mentioned is about the teaching aspect, and how important it is for teachers to have like a certain approach and how to kind of optimize that. So let's say a kid today is in an art class. I mean, you mentioned you had a bad experience. I think I was just bad at drawing, so I acknowledge that from a young age, and I said, it's not something for me. But what do you think teaching can improve on, or generally, like, what would you do differently compared to what your teacher did to encourage art or expression?
I think, to be honest with you, first of all, you always hear people saying, I can't draw. Like, everyone says, I can't draw, I can't do that. Wow, that's so good, I can't do it. And the first line I say is, everyone can draw. If you can write the letter A or B or C, that's a drawing. It's just a line that's formed that letter. That's actually a drawing. That's what a drawing is. It's something that creates and forms something. So if you try and explain it to people in a similar way, because I think people think, drawing is all about I can draw a face and it's perfect. It's not about that. It's just about line and proportion and size. And then the next phase would be the color, the tone. So I think as a teacher, it's very important to give students that confidence that, you can do it. If you
Okay.
can draw a line, you can draw. So you start off with that, and then it's just teaching them the basic skills. And art is something that can be taught. Creativity is different, but teaching them, how to draw, how to color, it's something you can teach them. It's like driving. If you tell me how to use a gear stick and all of that, I will learn how to drive. So it's the same with drawing.
So it must have felt quite fulfilling when you taught, knowing that you're teaching in a bit of a different way to how you were taught, and maybe, you were seeing the fruits of your labor, I guess. People.
Oh yeah, I think it's even when I was job hunted to go to Qatar, going into failing schools and turning them around, like to get 100% pass rates or
That's
the
good.
top mark in the Middle East or the world. For me, it was like, wow, because as a teacher, I think that's what you contribute. I don't see it as like, wow, an amazing teacher. I think that's my job.
Mm.
I just feel like I fulfilled what my job asked me to do. And I think I do get the fact that teachers have a lot of pressure and stuff, but when you've got a class of like 25, 30 children, every child is different.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing, like you might like fish, I might like chicken, someone else might like beef.
Yeah.
So everyone's got their own choice, but it's coming to their level. And this is where creative learning methodology in teaching is extremely important. I personally think it's the methodology and how you teach the child. So there's no differentiation between the highest to the lowest child. That's everyone should be at one level.
Yeah.
And that therefore comes back to your teaching, because some are visual learners, some just get it, there's different ways people learn as well. I'm a visual learner. You have to explain things to me 50 times until I can see it.
Yes, well, I mean, I like the answer, I guess, because it's a case of, and I like that you did kind of draw the line between creativity is one thing, so that people don't have like big expectations to think of a student, but you can teach them. So another thing, I mean, obviously you've been talking about some of the things you've done. So you've been, Karachi, you've done exhibitions and stuff like that, and obviously because they're all like moments in time for you, they're like milestones, and for you, you're kind of just glossing over them like it's a normal thing. Whereas for me, it's just like I'm just like, wow, each one of these is quite a significant event in itself. So talk about your just even your first exhibition. How did that come together? How did you feel about it going into it?
I
What?
think the first piece I sold was when I had my degree show, and it was for the VIP lounge in Dubai. And when I just graduated, and you have a show, and I think it was sold for like £2,000 to £3,000. At the time, I think the university take the money, but it was like, wow, someone's bought my work for internationally.
But was that the university just like doing it for the students, saying like putting them on that platform, or did you have to do something to get to
No,
the?
no, no. I think when you have like end of year exhibition, then lots of people come, and then they see it, and that was really, really, amazing for me. And there was times, like many doors shut locally.
Got you.
You'd approach galleries, like I kept saying to Mid-Pen, I'm an artist, I need help. And I didn't feel I got local support. And that was a sad thing, because what I was doing, there's only one of me really.
Mm.
There isn't, I was a big fish in a small pond. And but the thing is, for me, I felt like I had to leave that legacy, because I didn't want other people to suffer,
Yeah.
the way that I did, whether it was financially to get equipment because it wasn't cheap, or to have that, not knowing who to approach, what to do. And I was very disheartened, and I'll still say it now publicly, that there is local organisations that do not give you the support. I'm a local person, and I've exhibited around the world, and even now I'm going to another part of the world. But locally, I never felt that support was there. There was people there that supported me,
Yeah.
like I know before Andrew Stevenson even got elected, when we were running the Hooper Club, we wanted to get this. It was a play by Khayal Theatre Company called Hearts and Minds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about children. It was about diversity. And it did cost a lot of money for the performers to come, like to schools. And I remember they actually funded that. And he wasn't even in, he hadn't been elected. So there was people like him, that was supportive, because the only people who benefited from that was the children, and the schools that it was performed in. So other than that, one of my dreams has always been to make a sculpture, a celebration of, the journeys, the diversity of the Pakistani community coming here. And, you know, um, but I have approached many people on that for more than a decade, to the stage I've given up. That we've done lots of sculptures internationally, even at the World Cup. We had like sculptures on the Corniche in hotels and stuff like that. So you get to a point where you're thinking, I'm recognized outside, but yeah, I'm very local, and you don't see it. But then as an artist, you think, okay, I need to put bread and butter on my table. So just get on with it. Been there, done that. And this is a sad thing for me. It's like, because young people see your success, and I get students saying, "Oh, I really want to be like you," and you really want to say to them that it's not an easy journey. You need, as an artist, you need an income coming in regularly. So that was my teaching.
Yeah.
And then everything else is on top of that until you get established.
I think one of the that sounds like it's a bit I'm a bit disappointed for you, to be honest, in the sense that you, like, I mean, I hadn't even heard of you before, like, until we kind of made contact, through
Maybe
mutual.
that's a good thing.
No, but even then, it's like, I think support wise, it is. I'm sure there's like massive room for improvement around here as well. But I think part of that is maybe due to funding, or
I think my philosophy is now that if you've got something good, I'm a firm believer that if you've got something good, like, you want to go to a good restaurant, it doesn't matter where it is, you'll find it. Yeah. So I have this philosophy: if someone wants something, they'll come to you. But in the local community, me personally, I don't have that hope or expectation. And that way, because I have worked in the volunteer sector, I've been a director on Pendle Community Network, I've done the radio show locally. I've been very heavily involved locally in the community, and up until I went back, I moved to Qatar. And then that's when I realized that, hang on a minute, I was just pouring my time and skills into a well. I was getting nothing in return.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about me personally, because I think, in life, I've had people who have been my mentors, or I've looked up to and thought, wow, how did they achieve that? I feel I owe something back, because my parents left this world. They're buried locally in Nelson, and whatever I am today is because of them and what they contributed, whether it was my education, all of that. And I feel that's the legacy I want to leave behind.
Yeah.
Because I am from here. But the thing is, I'm not gonna go round knocking on these doors that slammed in my face, because I've gone beyond that.
Yeah.
Like to get invited to an international exhibition in Algeria as a British female Muslim artist from Pendle, for me, it's an achievement.
It's a
And that
massive
someone
deal,
in Algeria has recognised my work, and locally. So, but the thing is, you have to have this positive attitude. I'm an artist. I'll keep creating, but I'm not going to keep banging on doors. I mean, the other day I was in my studio at home, and I had like 300 sculptures, ceramic sculptures that have never been exhibited because of COVID and stuff. And I thought, wow, I made that. And then even like my book, I never thought I would be a writer.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that next. So actually, before I do that, let me just check something on my settings to be on the safe side. Yep, we're good. As is ever with these podcasts, there's always technical things you have to double check. But yeah, so one of the things that I was really interested to hear about is the fact that you'd wrote an actual book, and I would really like you to tell me all about that, please.
So when I moved to Karachi in 2002, after 9/11, and I was seconded there to work for the British Embassy School, I'd never lived in Karachi. I've not been there. So it's just, again, it was a challenge. And I used to tell a lot of stories, in the staff room to the teachers and stuff. And like one of my friends, she's a well-known actor. And So she's called Zeba Bakhtiar, who was married to Adnan Sami.
All right.
So Zeba's son Azan was in my class, and we used to go out, and she said to me, you know what, you should write a book. So I said for a laugh, yeah, I'll write a book, and I'm going to call it Through Brown Eyes, because it's story through my eyes. It's my, my vision of the story. So that's when the title was conceived. And then being away in Qatar, when my kids gone to university, and they're obviously very much tied in and grown up and mature at that point, I seemed to have a lot of time. So I was either doing my art or writing, and during the day I was teaching. So I had a friend of mine, Miriam Dunn, who was writing an article for a Qatari restaurant, which had a Michelin chef, and we met up for lunch and stuff. And I said to her for a laugh, I said, Miriam, I've been writing a book. And she said, oh, really? Like, why didn't you send me the first 5 chapters? And I'm thinking, oh my God, is she serious? So I totally forgot about it. And then she reminded me that I've not received the email with the 5 chapters. So I'm like reading my chapters thinking, is it good? Because she's a writer, she's an editor. And I didn't believe in myself again. You're dyslexic, English is your second language. You grew up with that. You're a very bad speller. So anyway, with my book, it was writing it, thinking about it, writing it. And it happened over quite a few years. So I sent her the 5 chapters and then didn't hear from her. So I knew, I thought it's rubbish and it's okay.
Were you expecting to get like torn to shreds, basically?
Yeah, but the thing is, as an artist, when I create work, for me, it's like, wow, because it's my work. It's like having a baby. It's mine.
Yeah.
But other people might not necessarily like it.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were talking about her article that she was doing, and then she didn't mention the chapters. And right at the end of the conversation, she said to me, she goes, did you write them chapters? And I went, yeah, I know, it's so bad, isn't it? And she went, no, it was bloody good. She goes, it was just so amazing. And she goes, every chapter you read, you can't wait to read the next one because it just keeps shafting. I said, are you serious? Are you being nice to me? And she goes, no, I'm serious. She goes, I would love to edit it for you. So keep sending me chapters. But Miriam was so good in the fact that she kept encouraging me, she kept pushing me, and she'd remind me, I haven't got the next chapter, I haven't got the next chapter. So I had that push from her.
I'm sure you're like doing all the checks for you, so setting all the squiggly notes and changing
So
this,
the good thing was that I didn't want anything changed. So it's my wording, so she grammatically just check everything. And then when Austin Macaulay, my publishers, got in touch with me and stuff, I said to them, the only way that they could publish the book is if they didn't change it, and they kept it exactly as it was, because that was how I wanted it.
Yep.
And then, although the book called Through Brown Eyes, so I waited 6 months for the book cover, and I get this like white-faced woman on the cover with sparkling blue eyes.
Red flag.
I said, you do know that the book's called Through Brown Eyes and the character's Pakistani? And they went, oh, yeah. So then I get the next one. It's got a woman with a hijab on it, with Istanbul, the mosque. I said, I tell you what, I'll do the cover myself. So then I did the cover myself, and I formatted it all and everything with another friend of mine, Amin. He helped me graphically put that together. And then Miriam's friend Helen, because Miriam said, look, let me just get another, pair of eyes on it. So between us all, we did it. And then, and it was really interesting because Miriam was female, based in the UK. Helen was based in Lebanon, and the publishers were based in Sharjah, and she was a woman who won the. So it was all females, and it was all about empowerment.
Yeah.
So and I decided that was my gift back to the community, and all the proceeds of the book would go towards charities. Awesome. So that was something I left back. So the second book is called Full Circle.
Okay.
So I'm just in the process of finishing that off.
So does that relate to the contents of Through Brown Eyes? And then
it ends where Through Brown Eyes ends. This one starts.
Okay. And Through Brown Eyes, is that like a novel?
It's a novel, yeah.
Novel. Okay. What was the reception like then?
It was, to be honest with you, when I read the first chapter, I got really emotional. It's like, bloody hell, did I write that? Because you're in your zone. It's like when you're making your artwork, you're in your zone. You're in your creative zone. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And the best part is the journey of not knowing. So you start, but it could change through the process. And then it's the ending. You're thinking, wow, now I know it's ended. So I think with the novel, it was quite moving. And then to read it out in my first book signing, I was really emotional, thinking, here I am. And And the sad part was when I actually published the book, I remember specifically, I was in Greece. I was in Athens in a resort doing my 10 days of COVID isolation.
Yeah.
And I got an email saying, you need to sign this because we're going into print. And I said, what for? And the book. So when it happened really quick. I'm like, you what? And the other thing the publishers did, they changed the context, the English writing, into American. So mum became mom. And I said, you do realize that the character's British.
Yeah. No.
So anyway, I had to keep on top of that. So that's another story. So, and then prior to me being in Greece, I had to fly over in an emergency in September when my brother passed away. And then in February, my mum passed away, my maternal mother, my mum's elder sister. So those were two names that I could add into the dedication. So I was out there and I said, look, just before you do that, I want to just change my dedication. But then again, it was meant to be. They were meant to be in there.
Yeah.
So and then it happened. So I've landed in England, and then within like the next it was my son's wedding in August, and within that period, my book they gave me the first 20 copies of my book, and that was just to see it physically.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, this is my book.
How in total, if you were to put a time period on it, how long did it take to write?
I think when Miriam got involved and she was editing and checking, I'd say over a period of a year. I mean, there was chapters that were written over the years, but I think then to physically get serious, I'd say a year.
Still, some good going.
Yeah.
And so you've got something else in the works now. What kind of timelines are you looking for that?
For my second book? My second book, really, it's more or less done. It's just things that I need to change because they come in, there's 3 books in total. So the first 2 will come out and the last one will not come out yet. And that's when it finishes.
Okay.
So, but other than that, being very creative, very dynamic, 2 things I've got in the pipeline. One is my podcast, She Talks, and that's from my experience of TV and radio. And again, contributing back with my experience of travels and stuff like that. And secondly is my artworks on scarves, on silk scarves, which I've been very passionate about. And being from a textiles background with my parents. So these 2 projects, are underway.
Yeah, I definitely, when that project's finished, definitely do pop back because that'd be really interesting as well. I wasn't aware of the textile stuff that you're doing as well.
Yeah, my first final print's done. We've finalized the silk, the quality of the scarf, everything. That I would say that probably took 1.5 years to do. So the 10 designs.
Okay.
And again, they're all inspired by Rumi's poetry, and the collection's called Masnavi.
Right. You're doing a lot.
Yeah.
You're spinning a lot of plates at the same time. I'm impressed. Is there anything else that you're doing that we don't know about?
What, cook and clean? I've got 5 cats.
Oh, mashallah.
If anyone wants a cat, please do get in touch. I'm just a very dynamic person.
So
I've had before I've come here, I've had my grandson today, and that was a great pleasure. So I do keep myself busy, but I think the way we grew up and the skills my parents gave us, it was hands-on. Do this, do this, do this. While you're passing, do this. So it's just the way I am, and I can't change that. I wish to God I could, but I can't.
No, it's good though, because if you weren't the way you were, then you might not have achieved all the things you have.
Yeah.
So now that we're hitting the 35-minute mark, so we could start like just rounding off. But in terms of obviously the conversation I've had with you today, I hope that this is the first of many and not just one. Because I suspect that over the years you're going to have many more cool things coming your way. And you said you've got an exhibition in Algeria coming up.
Yeah,
as
I've
well?
got an exhibition in Algeria, and it's based on artists leaving a legacy. So my piece is actually, it's a painting, it's called Hub Love in Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made of little mosaic pieces. So it's got little pieces. And the pieces basically meaning that everyone unites and gets together. And it doesn't matter what color or shape you are, because they're all in and it makes the word hub So that's what my piece is. Um, and then after that, I did have an exhibition in Lebanon in March because of political situation.
It's quite tricky
It's
there,
not
yeah.
happening, and then I've got another exhibition which is just called Peace, Love, and Unity in Qatar, hopefully next year. I think nowadays it's not more about doing exhibitions as much for me as well, because I get, people approaching me for commissioned work, but I want to do a lot more of like uh, teaching and residencies with other artists, like where artists unite, get together. And that's what Impressionists did, in the time of Monet, they'd all get together and share practice. And I feel that doesn't happen. And I think, even doing this podcast, it's sharing.
Mm.
It's sharing our experience, our journeys, and it's making people believe. Like I didn't believe in myself. I might come across as a very confident person, but I didn't. And it's giving that people who are listening that hope, that inspiration to say, "Look, I can do it. You can do it."
That's a nice way to kind of round it off. But one thing I was going to ask on, and I wanted to ask it earlier, but I kind of just started jumping around the list. But you've already talked about it a little bit, but I think it's quite important because a lot of the viewers that I have on this channel, which let's just say it's not the biggest channel, but a lot of them obviously are from a South Asian background. They've got, and a lot of my lads, but they've got sisters and daughters and so forth. But you've been through, or how we term it, you've been through the trenches. So you've been through the difficulties of kind of knocking on doors that aren't opened. You've kind of, like you mentioned, you did encounter a bit of difficulty when it came to getting help locally. Now, there's gonna probably maybe there'll be another generation of young girls that are gonna go or try and copy you even or emulate you. And is there anything you wanna say to them? To
I think for
motivate
me,
them.
I was very fortunate, even though I came from South Asian background, um, and I was born in the UK. You were like brown at school, but at home you were like you were Pakistani.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and every time you went out, like when I went to university, I was the only coloured person on campus, and that's when you think, oh my God, I'm actually different.
yeah.
But I think for me, I'm very, very fortunate because I had my Ammi and Abu, my mother's elder sister, my dad's elder brother. They were more like grandparents. So faith played a huge role, in my life.
Mm.
Every step of my life. It doesn't matter how modern you are, how well traveled you are. And I think as a female, what really gives you the best balance is your faith. As a mother, as a sister, as a daughter, having a career. And I remember my mum clearly said to me, when you get married, your husband comes first, your family comes first, your career comes second. If you can balance it, do it. And I think you have to, because as a woman, I think my daughter's just had a baby and she's,
Inshallah.
mashallah, a doctor. And she's at home and she's like, Mum, I don't know how you did it. I'm going to take a year off. But you see, as a woman, things turn over. And the reason I'm saying that is she had this career planned out. But you've got to have that balance. You can have both, but you can't neglect, things. And
Yeah,
you can't sometimes give, everything. So the thing is, it's really upon you. And I think Islam, alhamdulillah, does give us a hell of a lot of rights.
yeah.
As a woman, I can stand in 100 men. I'd be damn proud for who I am. So there is opportunities there. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does give you opportunities, but it's up to you to find them. And I think being born and bred in the UK, there's millions of opportunities that you don't get elsewhere.
No, no, thank you for that because like a couple of months ago, I became a dad for the first time to a girl. And this is going to sound incredibly ignorant, but it wasn't until I became a dad to a girl that I had to kind of almost broaden my horizons and think like, what kind of world is she going to grow up into? What do I want her to be? Is she just going to underachieve? Is she going to be, is she going to be bombarded with peer pressure? And, I want her to be like a scientist, a doctor. I want her to be whatever she wants to be. I'm already thinking about these things, but I'm thinking actually, wow, wasn't I thinking about that earlier? But again, it just comes down to just
I
life.
think as
Yeah.
a parent, though, I've got 3 children, all 3 of them are different. And I say to everyone, let your child choose their path. And sometimes they'll choose the wrong path. Like, for example, my son was at Ermistad Boys Grammar School and he A-level wise, he took the wrong options.
Hmm.
Like he took geography, RE, but he wanted to go into something science. And I kept saying, Azim, that's not right. He made the mistake. The following year, had to repeat. And normally Olmsted don't let you, but they did, because he wanted to go into pharmacy. So then he changed it. But I think let the kids make the mistake. Like, for example, my daughter wanted to do medicine. I was so against it. It was like, Tasha, it's too long, blah, blah, blah. But she was adamant because my youngest daughter was so ill and she'd seen her ill, you know, Alder Hay Children's Hospital, Pendlebury. So she always used to say when she was little, I'm going to grow up and fix children. So she had that passion, like I had that passion for art. I always say, let your children choose the path because they will know what they enjoy. And you know, you've got to enjoy your work. I love my work. I don't see it as work. I actually don't see my work as work. You know, other than that, I'm in property and stuff like that, which is new to me. But the thing is, let people enjoy and do what they do. As South Asian parents, do not put pressure on your child. If they fail, it's okay.
Yeah. At least they've tried.
Yeah, they've tried. Encourage them and say, you know what, you can do it again. You can do it again. As long as your goal's there. And I remember you saying that to my daughter when she was doing medicine, that that's what you definitely want to do. If it takes you 10 years, 50 years, just do it. But just achieve it. So encourage them, make them feel good, be supportive, and, keep an eye on them. I think nowadays, you need to keep an eye on your kids. The kids don't have skills. They're all on social media.
Yep.
For me, that's sad to see, because when we were doing the Hooper Club, the kids used to come every Saturday, with the moms, and they were hands-on and they all engaged. I don't see any of that really in the community.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about the pitfalls of social media, the pros and cons. This is the cons as well, unfortunately. But yeah, can I just say thank you very, very much for coming today. I know you're quite busy, and I know it was a little bit last minute. But inshallah, in future, you will have your own podcast once we just sort out your equipment.
We're hoping. I'm hoping. I'm actually really excited to do it because I think with my travels and meeting so many fascinating people, I think life is a gift of giving. And for me, it's a form of giving back.
Yeah.
And it's not really about me. It's about the other people, just like you call me onto your podcast. It's what you can share, how you can empower people, how you can inspire people, how you can make people believe in themselves. And this is what's a very good thing about social media, in a positive way.
Yeah.
And then you've got the negativities as well, where you can get influenced in a wrong way as well.
Yeah, I think with the negativity, I think the younger generation don't quite have some of the best decision-making capacity to be able to kind of like assess what they're being hit with. So maybe that's why it's not as good. But anyway, I'll stop rambling. But again, thanks again. And sorry, I know I'm taking up your time. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. And thanks again to Shahida. And if you want to say bye-bye to the camera.
Thanks so much, everyone.